Wait, did you press record already?
Yeah, recording.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
What's up, guys?
Yep. Will Kun and Tamaki Jason over here. Just watched Jason destroy a hand roll in 2 bites. What the fuck?
I mean, when you wait, whoa, putting me on blast like that, bro?
No. I'm just saying it's amazing. Like, how the hell did you do that? Like, I'm a 3 biter. Like 2 bites is you're hungry.
It could have been a 1. When you are in a rush to pick up a sandwich or 2 in transit to where you need to go, you got to do what you got to do, man.
Oh man, do you ever do that thing with like sandwiches where it's like, I just want to finish as quickly as possible? You scrunch up the bread as tight as possible and you just shove the whole thing in your mouth.
No, because that's what amateurs do.
God damn. What does a professional do in this situation then?
You actually break it down into like sizable chunks, then turn it into a ball, then put it in your mouth, and then chew it like a gumball.
That's what I do.
Like 4 small gumballs.
That's what I'm saying. Like, 4 small gumballs.
Yeah. Like you break it up.
I do a whole jawbreaker is what I do.
Because that's tough, bro.
Then there's no texture whatsoever. It's literally just one big clump.
Yeah, and
like, I don't know
your
if
stomach and your esophagus is not liking you at all.
Yeah. No, I don't swallow 1 bite.
That's what she said. Okay.
Pause.
Okay. Hey, what's up, guys? Bits and Pieces over here. Will and I are very grown adults talking about very grown-up things.
Swallowing bread.
Yeah.
What to do. So, yeah, Bits and Pieces. This time around, Jason's taking the mic. Going to be dropping some knowledge or maybe some controversy on the air. So, what you got for us today, Jason Kun?
Let's talk about 3D, Will.
Oh, we're actually talking about it.
Let's
Really?
talk about 3D, Will. And then let's talk about 3D in anime, Will.
Oh, well, but like we've talked about 3D before. I mean, like we've done like so many episodes trashing like terrible 3D.
Correct. And I don't think our sentiment has changed. However, there is new development that might change how every single one of us, anime and manga consumers, yes, manga, might perceive 3D in anime.
Wait, 3D manga?
No. As in, like, an anime consumer perceiving 3D.
Ah, okay.
Because even though I would say they also have the same sentiment, which is a very negative perception, I would argue that they have a slightly different take, but the destination is the same.
Are we talking about AI here?
My dude.
Deep learning, machine learning.
We're also talking about One Piece.
Okay, all right. Hit me with it.
In the modern world of anime production, 3D is a necessary evil in the grand scheme of things. I don't think anyone will dispute that. I also understand that there are exceptions like Polygon Pictures and Studio Orange. Let's take that out of the equation right now. Because I would argue, despite how I feel about Polygon Pictures, they still do a very good job and commit all the way to 3D. But what I would like to focus on actually is not 3D only anime, because to me that's not necessarily the most interesting discussion. I would argue that 3D anime rendering or graphics in 2D anime, the traditional anime that we all know and love, is the thing of concern here. I think also, or at least the thing that I want to focus on, it doesn't have to be, but I just think that that is the more interesting thing that the future might hold for 3D animators that are also working in a 2D piece of art.
I suppose, like, you know, if you were to sort of expand this further, it's not just within 3D as well, right? Like, if we're talking about the use of AI in animation, I think all facets of animation will be affected in some way, whether good or bad.
Yeah, I agree. But I just think
guess
that's such a mammoth of a topic, though, that I just kind of want to focus on something that I think a lot of people, including ourselves, really like roll our eyes when we see really bad 3D and 2D anime.
Yeah. Yeah,
And-
no, that's fair. I think that if you have a point of focus, at least we're not going to be like digressing and being like, oh, all anime that's done by AI is really, really bad, or all 3D anime is really, really bad. I think that's like, if you have like a center point of focus, then at least we can like wrap our discussion around that specific point.
Yeah, I'm not saying like this is not an ongoing AI part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, because Genes of AI has taught us so much about how AI will, act in certain ways, right?
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic, but
It,
yes.
it is interesting you bring this up, but I'll let you sort of like expand on this topic and why you want to broach the subject in the first place before I offer my 2 cents. So like, I suppose this discussion comes up more in the fact that like we've seen so much anime that, for good or bad, certain series make use of 3D animation, whether it's like in between scenes, whether it's like a climactic point, or like in the case of fucking like, we'll say it now because it's already been enough time, like The Witch and the Beast, where like the crows have to be 3D for some reason, the horse characters have to be 3D for some reason,
Or sometimes in a very, very good anime done by a well-respected studio that did Vinland Saga Season 2, there are all of a sudden random shots of like Vikings marching that has to be in 3D for some reason. I don't understand why, but okay. There are solo leveling red fire ants that are in 3D, or in the literal opening shot of Villainous Level 99, where the carriage is obviously in 3D and everything else is not. And again, I'm not talking about like cheesy Overlord 3D, which is not good 3D.
but like it's funny you see it, and it's meant to be a bit comedic anyway,
And endearing in a certain way. But if you were to tell me, oh, we are actually going to do Overlord, the 3D in Overlord, but really well done, I would do that 100% of the time, all the time. But the One Piece thing of this cutting edge visual technology, which is not confirmed, right? That is AI oriented or whatever. So we have no idea, speculation there, but that is a speculation that is unsurprising for a lot of people to gravitate towards. So it kind of spurred the discussion of, again, when you also mix in with the glaring issue of 3D, using mainly not as a creative outlet, again, excluding Polygon Pictures and Studio Orange.
Yeah, see, this is where I wanted to sort of like pose this question.
Yep.
Where like the usage of 3D in a 2D anime, whether it is a choice that was made by the director, the studio, or whoever was responsible for even doing the 3D in the first place, do you feel that, and you might want to be like, well, it's neither here or there, but do you feel it's more of like an artistic choice or like a technical choice?
I would almost guarantee, because there's always going to be exceptions, they're almost always a constraint due to budget, manpower, and limitations. Very rarely would I look at a 3D in a 2D show and go, oh yeah, I would think 3D is the better choice.
Because 99% of the time you're just thinking, God damn, they done it again. They had to throw that 3D crow in there. They had to make the horses. They had to make the fucking bears 3D again.
Yeah. Listen, there are several facets of, am I being very like, oh, I'm not sympathetic towards having budgetary issues and you're going to have to do something, and you can't do an Akira of all of the animations of every single crash and explosion and all the screws are in beautiful 2D drawings. I get that. That's impossible standards, even given modern technology.
Yeah, but you can't help but feel that sometimes like the use of 3D is like a bit like unnecessary, even facetious at times.
Yeah, and I don't understand why, for example, with the horse carriage in Villainous 99 opening shot, you could easily storyboard it in another way, potentially.
They could have just had the horse carriage like standing still.
Yeah.
It didn't even have to move. That would have been like, that's fine.
Or just show like a perspective of them in the carriage to start. It doesn't have to have the carriage, in the town hall, and then you clearly can see the 3D like pop out. However, I also feel that 3D is not that bad when blended well. I think 86, it's very obvious it's 3D, but it's at least better integrated into it.
Yeah.
That it is not that egregious to me, because at the end of the day, I don't care whatever method you use to, whether it is to, streamline your budget or to be more efficient. But when it is not, it's immersive breaking. That's my problem.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Or when at least I can maybe think of reasons that you can do to bypass it. Maybe I am, talking out of my ass because I'm not an industry insider and I'm not, or I don't never animate anything because I never animated anything. But it just seems kind of like on like a rational level that there are ways that you can skirt that you don't have to make a 3D model.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to know the reason as to why studios decide that this particular instance, no, we got to make this 3D. Oh, though this ship that's coming across the waters, we're going to make that 3D, or this train that's coming along the tracks. Like, we're never going to know, like, who made the decision, why they made the decision in the first place, and whether or not there was an alternative to doing it in the first place, right?
But all we can do is speculate as consumers and as kind of content creators or critics of the medium, because it is a big part, good or bad, of anime production.
So where does the AI part come in? I'm assuming that it's people wanting to use 3D, but not necessarily like have people have a studio that's like doing it like hand by hand and all that. It's meant to be like generative AI, developing like AI characters, AI scenes, AI whatever.
So my theory, when you look at 3D being used on almost all cases, being a cost-cutting budgetary limitation, right? Or at least, okay, I'm not saying that applies to everything, but would you say the majority of 3D use, it's fairly safe to say if they had the money and the time, they would have not done it in 3D. Would you at least?
Yeah, but on the inverse as well, like when we talk about like the use of AI, right? Like, okay, so like just a sort of like little inside baseball. Like I've been working on a coding boot camp for several months, and I worked on 2 separate projects, both of which use artificial intelligence, specifically language models. Now, in terms of the cost behind using AI, it can be very cheap. In the sense that you're not using a huge data set, you're not using the most up-to-date like ChatGPT models or AI models.
You're not paying for a human being to do it, technically.
Maybe if you're doing it on your own, then it's technically free.
That is true.
In terms of like the cost of labor. But when it comes to actually the cost of service, right? Like, who is providing the AI? Are you developing it yourself? Are you going to be using another model that's generated from a different company? Maybe they have a subscription for service. Maybe it's like a one-off or whatever it may be. But the point in terms of like using AI is that you don't use it as like a replacement tool, right? It's more like it's a tool to be able to help you with certain things, but you can't necessarily, in its current state, use fully fledged AI to fully replicate something, whether it be a background for like a backdrop of an anime scene, whether it be I mean, we might talk about this later on, we probably will, using AI to develop subtitles for anime and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And then in this case, using AI to auto generate 3D models, whether it's for characters, whether it's for a set piece, whether it's for like battle scenes where you have like lasers and shit shooting out and all that,
Or
right?
like a bunch of soldiers that you need to somehow have in the frame, right? Yeah.
Now the problem with using AI in this instance is that the AI is only as good as the person
Prompt.
that and whoever created it in the first place.
Correct.
Right? And even then, because of the way that AI works, especially when you're scraping data from a database, whether you're using a language model, whether you're using a neural network, whether you're using like deep learning or machine learning, it's really hard to get consistent results if you don't have the right amount of data.
Correct. Especially when a lot of AI scrape from the public domain, or if you add stuff in there, you are unknowingly actually feeding it your own information and data so then it can grab your stuff, right? So am I wrong?
Like the most tried and true like AI testing model slash meme is using TensorFlow. That's essentially a Python model to essentially do image training. So the meme here is
art or AI?
That's not such a meme, but definitely a point of contention. What I'm more referring to is this a chihuahua or is this a muffin? And so they would show.
Enlighten me. What does this?
Basically, you would see multiple images of a blueberry muffin with 3 blueberries that look strikingly similar to a chihuahua. And what you do is you continuously feed images of chihuahuas and blueberry muffins to TensorFlow to be able to discern automatically on its own. When it sees a picture, it's like, yes, that's a chihuahua. That's a blueberry muffin. That's a muffin that looks like a chihuahua, but it's still a muffin. So on and so on.
Right. I think probably the most complex one, at least from a layman non-programmer perspective, which is not you, it's me, right, is probably Google image reverse search, right?
Yep.
That would be the most complex one of those types of models. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, you have thousands of machine learning engineers and AI engineers just working on and refining this model constantly to make sure that it produces the most accurate results each and every single time. And yes, you can get incredibly high accuracy, but there's always that 0.01% chance that the model just craps out and gives you the wrong result. You can say that from maybe doing an AI prompt and give me the full history of Abraham Lincoln or 1776, or give me the most accurate current price reflection of what the yen cost back in 1920 or whatever it may be. There will be information on the internet or whatever database you scrape from, but because it's not just scraping from one source, it's scraping from multiple sources.
Right, to verify the accuracy, right?
How is the model supposed to be able to know what is the most accurate, not answer, but representation of what you're looking for?
Yeah, and to add an extra layer of complexity, those examples, even though it's there's no issue with that, they are more of a factual, data-oriented thing than a more artistic style. Would you say so?
Yeah.
Which probably makes it infinitely harder.
I mean, you have those controversies of people entering art competitions, and then they put in this piece of artwork and it wins, and then afterwards they reveal, oh, this is AI generated. This is all Mid-Journey. And then everyone just loses their shit. It's like you are discrediting the credibility of what it means to be an artist, and you're like, no, there's a lot of intricacies that go into generating AI art. You have no idea how extensive I've been working on writing this prompt.
You may be fully correct, but at least with the public perception, right, is very anti-AI, especially given the writer's strike a year back. Right now, it's a year back.
Oh,
right?
The SAG, yeah,
yeah. Obviously, we'll talk about English subbing, dubbing stuff. There was also a lot of controversies about.
Don't forget there was that anime that came out that was completely AI generated. I think it was only 5-10 minutes, and people fucking hated it. But they liked it, but they hated it. And then there was also Peach, whatever it was.
Yeah, the cyberpunk Momotaro, right? That actually, minus probably the fingers, which is a limitation of the current model that they used, it did look really good and also very scary. We talked about it for another
the potential of how good AI can be, right?
But that aside, though, I think all the stuff that you said and the worries that are associated with it is very real. But my kind of understanding, which is a very layman understanding, is what I do know is 3D is everywhere in 2D anime, and most of them are really bad looking.
There's also hella companies and hella tools now that incorporate the usage of AI. Whenever I start coding,
that you don't even know it's using AI, right?
I do, because as soon as I type in a prompt, let's say, for example, I want to do a for loop function to be able to calculate the length of a a string. I have a string that is full of information, and it's
okay.
I have
a number of words.
Let's say
letters.
I'm scraping data for the amount of hospitals there are in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Right. And then like I just basically have a data set and I start writing a for loop so that every time the word hospital shows up, it shows me the result. So I might just type the word for, open parentheses, and then immediately Copilot, Tab 9, whatever AI model I'm using will just splurge out the whole code for me.
Yeah.
Because it knows exactly what data set I'm using. It sees I'm using a for loop, and it knows that's what you're trying to manipulate. That's what you're trying to generate as a result. Boom, I'll just give it to you all right
And
now.
I knew that you have that extra perspective that I lack, right? But would it be fair to say that your example, in a more layman's terms, is if you do Google auto search, that's a very simple understanding of a very complex, even for loop function that you just said.
I think that like what people fear is that like when people start, especially like coders, when we start using like Copilot or Tab9 or any sort of like AI assisted model to be able to generate code, people then would start wondering, did you write the code yourself at all? Because what it actually does is it scrapes through like multiple data repositories of people who have done similar types of coding, and then like using that sort of machine learning, it then understands, this is the result you're trying to achieve, and I'll just splurge it out for you. So yeah, in a way, it's like I didn't technically write the code, but at the same time, like I know what format, I know what style I need to do this code in. I know what prompts I need to be able to write. So that's why I have this tool in the first place. In the end, it's a tool, right? Like it's not meant to be something that I'm going to build my whole code base on.
Yeah.
But it's also like we've had the hammer for so many years because it's used to, like nail nails, right? Like we're not going to just use our bare fists when we have a hammer in our hand, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially in the academic community, where I do clinical research.
Oh, that's
the plagiarism thing. It's such a bad, in my opinion, not a very. It's doing a disservice onto putting too much responsibility on blaming the AI and not the person, because technically, regardless of the output, right? The person had to have made a conscious decision to use the AI to spit out whatever and claim it as their own.
Yeah, but that's also why you have like this many universities where like we will immediately suspend or even expel you if we find you use AI in like your thesis. Whereas like there's some universities like, please use AI, please use ChatGPT because it will help to refine your research and give you more precise answers, because I'd rather see the correct answer as opposed to a guesstimation.
Yeah, that's why AI, even within or outside of anime and manga, is such a hot topic nowadays because of the early fascination, paranoia, and potential direction that it can go down in terms of its development. And I think, to me at least, until I see conclusive evidence otherwise, my argument that I want to pose in this BP specifically about 3D use in regards to AI is it actually, I think, will make 3D and 2D anime way better. Potentially.
That is...
Of course, there's a lot of caveats that come with it because, as you said,
because
the
you
3D model, you need the
need-
repository, you need the data sets,
You
right?
also need someone who knows how to write the prompt.
Right.
Right?
So-
You still need a good writer, and also somebody who understands the creative direction of what the director or the screenwriter wants. Therefore, you're able to reciprocate that as an AI prompt and have that prompt run efficiently to produce what you want. Like if you want to create a backdrop with a blue sky, a mountain on the side, and the clouds moving in the right direction because that's the way the world moves and all that, like, are you able to put all that information into this AI model to be able to generate exactly what you want?
Now, I would argue that what I'm trying to pose or suggest is not something that is self-sustaining by itself.
Yeah.
But rather, it is probably used in conjunction with whether it is someone who is a director or someone on the creative aspect, as well as obviously a 3D animator. I'm not suggesting to take it out.
You're never going to allow just the AI to do everything on its own. There's always going to be somebody that checks the kinks and the errors in it, because in the end, all mistakes that happen in AI are not AI generated, but rather human generated.
Because it comes from a data set that is human generated, right?
And also the prompts are human
Generated. So either it's bad prompts or bad data or both, right?
Like if you were to write a book, right? Like, you're not just going to write a book and then send it to the publisher. No, you're going to get an editor. You're going to get a proofreader. You're going to be like making sure that you got your tenses correct. You got like the right punctuations in your book. You also need to know that, like, in terms of like context as well, what you're writing is suitable for whoever you're writing this book for, right? If you're writing a children's book, you're writing a, like an adult love model, you're writing like erotica or whatnot. It's like, hey, okay, like, there's certain things you need to keep in check, but you're not going to know everything. That's why you have a team working with you. In the same way that this AI model is not going to be able to know contextually everything that is needed. Therefore, you do need the human eye. And that's kind of like where I think people freak out a bit, because they're afraid that, like, oh, AI is just going to take over everything. In its current state and in the near future, it's impossible for AI to do everything on its own. That's not to be like confused with like AI robotics, where it's like you go to a warehouse and it's like, oh, I need to get this certain pallets of cardboard boxes moved from one place to another. Like that's relatively simple, because logistically it's been done for a long time. Like, Amazon warehouses are now losing people because of the fact that AI, like, dude, like, look at like the assembly line for making cars. A lot of it is done by AI robotics, right?
Yeah. So I think that the human component of it is not necessarily going to be eliminated. In fact, it very likely, at least for the foreseeable future, in my opinion, won't be eliminated.
It will down the road, but like, we're far from that at this stage.
I don't think we'll be alive for that moment, or at least we might be too old at that time.
Yeah, we're waiting on you, SkyCorp.
Well, Skynet.
Skynet Corp. Yeah, damn it.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Okay. So what I'm trying to kind of figure out with your perspective is, things like Midjourney AI, we're saying all these like buzzwords and all these program names, but AI is currently being used right now at this moment during anime production. Whether we like it or not, or whether we think we know it has been used or not, it has.
Dude, even when we're doing our fucking dockets and stuff, like, Google Sheets has AI in it, right? Microsoft Excel has ChatGPT built into it, like OpenAI built into it. So,
or like their equivalent, right?
Bing Search has OpenAI on it now.
Wait, what is Bing again?
Bing actually is quite good. I quite like using Bing, especially if you're doing like not Chinese translations but Cantonese translations. Perfect. I like it a lot more than using Google Translate. But back on this, in terms of like where AI stands in the current landscape and what it means for anime specifically, I am not fearing that it will take over the industry in the way that people think, where it would basically cause the loss of hella jobs and that everything is going to be like super formulaic and robotic. We're not even close to that. What we are in an age of right now is that, dude, studios are shutting down. Studios are losing people. There's not enough time to be able to meet that crunch where you have to get anime out straight away.
Exactly. And when you need to be involved in that industry, yet money is tight, budget is tight, and you just need to get that anime out the door. When you put a product out that people either need to pay for or you need to get compensation from because you provided a service, you need to make it as appealing as possible to the consumer. And of course, is 3D gonna potentially make or break your anime in the grand scheme of things? I don't think so, but it does affect it in such a way when you add it, also compound it with the manpower issues, which is already, even before all the layoffs and stuff, animators being overworked and underpaid is a common problem and should be addressed at some point. But right now, everything is kind of chaotic.
Yeah. The problem that I do see, though, in terms of integrating AI as a tool for anime production is that at the end of the day, the people who hold the power, as well as the money, which is power in this case, in terms of getting anime like licensed and animated, produced, and sent out to whatever streaming service or TV broadcasting network you're on, none of those people are tech people. These people are, in the end, stakeholders. They're business users. They're the ones who just see like dollar signs. And so when you start telling people that, oh, our studio is not just going to be like reliant on like manpower, like straight up labor, women power as well, we're also going to be using integrative artificial intelligence to be able to generate stuff at blazing speeds and be able to cut time and maybe costs. And that's where I'd start to wonder if when the production companies, the production committee starts coming in and saying, oh, I guess you can do things faster and for cheaper, I hear. Oh, I guess that means it's going to be cheaper and faster to make anime. We don't have to spend as much money making anime now. And also, if you can do this all in AI, instead of making this shit done in like 3 months' time, I want it done in 1 month's time. That's where like I am. Like that's where the fear is in terms of the usage of AI. It's not so much the AI itself, but people in power that use the AI.
It is so sad that at the end of the day, the problem with AI is actually not AI, but humans and how they perceive and use AI, which is not a surprising narrative. Is also a very, in my opinion, a very accurate one, right? But, and you can't avoid that scenario that you pose, because I think that's a very realistic business kind of mentality.
It happens all the time.
Like, I mean, they do it already even without AI, bro.
We talked about, like, for example, like the car assembly line, like, made famous by like Ford, right? Like nobody like now just has like a fucking warehouse where like thousands of workers are screwing bolts and checking tire pressures and assembling like cars together. No, now it's like those people are gone. And then you have people going in, building robots to be able to do the same screwing of bolts, checking the same tire pressure, putting those cars together. What happens to the people that lost their jobs? Well, shit, they just lost their jobs. And now their skills are redundant. You know, that these things happen with every iteration of technical breakthrough. But it doesn't mean that like it's going to be the total elimination of like the labor force. There are going to be opportunities to re-enter it through reskilling or further understanding of the usage of these tools. Right. Now, that's not to say that every person who had their job replaced by AI is going to find a job. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Or that they can convert their current skill set as best as it can into transition into something else without having a huge cost in time or money or all of the above, right?
It's just that over time, there are certain things that we just don't need anymore, or we don't need to do anymore. Like shit, we don't have people going around hunting for food anymore because now we have like mass scale agriculture and like animal like farm raising so that we can actually have food on our table. I never in my life had to kill anything so I could eat. Right. But
you've had eaten things that have been killed in order to get to.
But in terms of like, let's say like 2-3 generations ago, you had to fucking do that. You had to go and fish. You had to go and hunt. You had to go and forage. You don't do that shit anymore, right? And it's like once we start veering into the age of like optimizing time, whether it be for convenience, whether it be for necessity, whether it be for advancements of the technology you use,
or your current limitation or circumstances, right? Yes.
Yeah. Like there's, I mean, like shit. Like we like before the Japan ban, and like in terms of like Japanese products coming into Hong Kong because of like the whole like nuclear waste thing, right? Like we wouldn't be eating like Japanese maguro tuna, or we wouldn't be eating Norwegian salmon because of the fact that like there was no way we could be able to figure it out. But now you have like planes and ships are bringing shit all over the place. Like the world has become a much smaller place over time because we have these technical breakthroughs, and AI is just another step. It is a monumental step because it's something that we've never seen before, like legitimately alter our lives to this extent.
Yeah. And taking what you've said, like the sentiment and that narrative, and putting it in the context of anime production, at least from the 3D perspective, I'm going to make a couple of caveats in order for us to really succinct our discussion to a certain extent, because the scale of it and the scope of it is so massive and it's so unpredictable for both of us to not know. I think it's arrogant of both of us to assume that we know the answer or we even know where it's going, right?
Yeah. And it's also arrogant of us to think that like the usage of AI is going to be like fine, right? Because
Yeah.
there's enough people. In fact, I would say it's more on the majority side of people that feel like the usage of AI in general, especially when it comes to artistic mediums, storytelling mediums, entertainment mediums, is more like a derogatory usage as opposed to actually like benefiting.
Or complementary, right? And
Yeah.
and I also think that it is arrogant to assume that it won't the impact of it, the massive jump is not at our doorstep right now. We're at like the precipice of it, right? So let's try to take out the production committee motive of utilizing it to really further constrain the creators and animators. It's a big caveat, but let's just put that aside.
It's also the main caveat too, because that's the reality we face. But
And I'm not disputing that, but it's hard to have a conversation when, and I'm not like insulting you or anything. Like it's hard to have any conversation when the very real thing that will happen in that scenario is the one thing you always come back to as being like, well, yeah, but I can always just shorten the time if you can do it shorter, and I don't have to front that much money.
yeah, no, there's no point in terms of like hammering home like the reality of things.
I mean, we have hammers for a long time,
because
right?
people know
Yeah.
what the fuck is up.
Yeah, exactly.
People know that if you have power and you have money and you've been given this tool to use, more often than not,
And you can earn more money and spend less money. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Duh.
Duh.
Oh, guess what? We're a for-profit company. We're not a non-profit. Of course, we're going to be making big bucks off this shit. Like, why would we do anything charitable? You know, like,
Right.
There's always going to be abuse of power, no
And,
matter what.
Yeah. And then the second thing, the most obvious second thing I will say is the consumer doesn't care to a certain extent. Again, where that extent lies varies by the individual. But at the end of the day, consumers mainly care about the product and the quality of the product, irregardless, again, to a certain extent, how it's made, how the sausage is made, right?
I mean, chances are, it's like, I mean, you must have seen these videos where it's like, this is a burger. This is a burger made by a robot or whatever. It's like those kinds of comparisons. I want you to tell me which one is which, and they'll be like, I think burger A is made by a human. I think burger B is made by a robot. Da, 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 da. Turns out that people actually can't tell consistently. It's just, you've seen that with art as well, right? So I don't think that with the naked eye, the general anime consumer is going to notice. And look, you showed me Peach John and didn't tell me it was Midjourney, I probably would have been like, wow, this artist is on some crazy shit. This looks freaking awesome. The fingers look kind of weird, but yeah, this looks pretty cool. Oh, it's AI. Oh, I fucking hate it now. It's like that's not the conclusion we want to jump into. But I think that generally, as Jason was saying, if something comes out and you like it, you don't necessarily care how it's made.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, another third thing that's obvious, a lot of 3D is bad in a lot of 2D animes. So that is...
Anything improving it is a win, right?
From the consumer perspective, definitely. So, okay. I think that the in-between animations that you mentioned for AI that is even happening today as we speak in anime production, maybe not that intricate, but...
Or maybe that you would notice, right?
Exactly. I'm not asking for some AI model or whatever to make something from scratch to actually animate something that you wanted to be in 3D. Actually, that wasn't my theory or how I would think I would implement it. Again, coming from someone who has very little background in AI or predictive modeling, but maybe you could touch up a lot of the 3D because it takes a lot of time, for sure, I know that, to touch up the same thing or to make certain things look a certain way. Or maybe you can go 80% of the way and someone comes in and checks and does the other 20%. And I think that at least in this extremely narrow and specific instance, AI can actually make a lot of animes more aesthetically pleasing and make the 3D less jarring for a lot of consumers.
It's all about optimizing time, really. It's all about the convenience of using tools to be able to supplement certain aspects of your responsibility. Like, if you were building houses and you just laid everything brick by brick by brick, it would take you so fucking long. That's why you have people who literally just mail you sheets of like walls and plaster
Right.
and rebar and all that all put in, so that once you set it in, done. Now you can comment on the quality of those buildings. We've seen loads of buildings, particularly like the ones you've seen that were raised in like a month's time in China, just all of a sudden collapse because of
The structural integrity and stuff like that.
there was also that controversy here in Hong Kong where they were building a bridge and then the whole project got canceled because they found they were using substandard concrete.
Right.
Like, but again, it's out of a matter of convenience, about time. You could say the same thing about the usage of AI, but I feel that
or the usage of even 3D, because it's cost cutting. It kind of falls flat on its face. It does serve its purpose, but it's kind of
Yeah, look, I think that like there's always going to be like a good and evil, and no matter anything you look at, it just depends on what you choose to focus on, and it's really, really hard to be completely impartial, right? Because everybody has an agenda of sorts. Everybody has their own opinion of sorts, and that does dictate on which side of the fence you sit on. You can never necessarily be literally 50-50.
Right. But, like, instead of having to draw that carriage that is going to be in 3D, why can't an actual animator draw that and then have it somehow, just like in between animations, complement the style or make it such that the prompt side of it, because that would essentially be the prompt, and then maybe you have, like, rather than doing 60 frames per second, you maybe do, or 30 frames, I think, or for anime, you do like every 5 frames of animation.
See, I have absolutely no problem with that. Because
Right.
in essence, you're using a tool that's been made accessible for you to use.
Yeah.
It's up to you whether you want to use it the right way or the wrong way.
Yeah, and I'm not, in this very narrow scenario, I'm not saying to this, figurative AI model or whatever, oh, I need a horse carriage, spit it out for me. No, it's more like I designed it, I did the in-between animation. So you might go, well, Jason, aren't you kind of saying the same thing for something that actually already exists? And I don't think that you're wrong, but I also feel that the scale and the amount of usage in it is kind of, everyone is keeping it hidden and kind of keeping it to themselves rather than...
Yeah, because nobody wants to make the headlines of being that studio that did something in AI 3D and then like bearing the brunt of the naysayers. They're like, how dare you use AI to make your anime? Oh, are you that lazy? Are you trying to put your animators out of jobs and whatnot? It's like, that's a very short-sighted way of looking at this situation, because it's not really a problem. I think like if you have the tool, make use of it. Don't abuse it, but like if you have it, then I would be like dumbfounded if you didn't find some way of implementing it in your daily work life.
Or if you choose not to use it, which is of your own volition, do not get mad at others when they choose to use it and you get left behind potentially, right?
Yeah, no, I think that like there's always going to be purists. There's always going to be people that feel that like you're like questioning the integrity of what it means to be an animator, an artist, some or whatever form of storytelling, entertainment, whatever it may be, right? But at the end of the day, like, does it really matter? Does it really matter if like that horse carriage that moved from point A to point B was drawn hand by hand or whether it was AI generated? In my eyes, no. Because
as a consumer, we don't care. We just care when it looks really bad.
Yeah. And you know damn well that they're going to be using AI. They are going to have somebody check and make sure that it's doing the right thing.
Right.
Because, like you said, if it turns to be terrible and someone catches wind that horse carriage was 3D AI generated, oh, the pitchforks are coming out.
Yeah. Because I was trying to, like mind game it in my head. I was like, okay, well, what if we just 2D draw it, right? I'm like, okay, don't do that. That's actually costs even more money and time.
And you're creating another problem.
Exactly. So then, okay, we're stuck with 3D.
And that's not to say that using AI is going to eliminate all problems. It has its own challenges too, right?
Yeah, I can't just wave a magic wand and a perfect, program AI representation of this function of making really good 3D or, touching it up is magically going to appear by itself. Also, that people would allow everyone to use open source with no strings attached, whatsoever, right?
I'm not sure if it was the same person that said it or if it was like in a similar discussion thread, but the person who submitted their art piece as an AI art but never revealed it until afterwards said that this is what I'm doing is no different from photographers using Photoshop.
I would even go a step further and saying, well, do I have to write this novel by hand with ink and quill instead of using a computer? In a very extreme example,
Which,
right?
if you're typing it on like a Word doc, you're going to have like autocorrect and whatnot, right? Like,
And even that is not like perfect either.
it's like why are we like drawing such a fine line in terms of what artistic integrity is when really nobody fully has the right or the singular definition of what artistic integrity is.
And,
I totally get in the context of a art competition that throwing AI art in there is a pretty scummy thing, but that also does open up the question, is AI art not art?
Or is it not feasible in any situation,
Yeah,
right? That's the issue. It's not all or nothing, right?
It's like we're venturing into the uncanny valley situation where it's like what was real is no longer real, or what we think is right is no longer right, or when we see something, it's like we are so disturbed by it that we actually see it for what it is. Like, I don't think that we need to be pigeonholing ourselves into being like things have to be done the way they're done. Like, there's always going to be technical innovations. There's always going to be breakthroughs in whatever things we do. Like, that doesn't mean that like when something comes in and tries to reinvent the wheel that person is a fucking maniac and trying to destroy the very foundations of the things we've built over the last century, millennia, or whatever it be.
I just think that as consumers, it doesn't matter in terms of how it is done to a certain extent. Like, if it harms lives and like fucks people up, you could argue it already does that.
Yeah, but at that point, you're arguing ethics, and ethics is not consistent across every single person you talk to.
I agree with you, and I'm with you on that. But
because it's like, I don't think like you and I are like 100% for AI. Like, there's always going to be some reservation as to why and how it should be used.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that we're like, oh, like just ban it immediately. No, it's like I want to see the potential of how this technology could affect, maybe even improve the medium.
Yeah, it's
like there's a difference between, like you said, animating using AI, a horse carriage moving from one place to another, and using Midjourney and ChatGPT to write and script a whole anime for you. There's a fucking massive difference for that.
Yeah, and again, in this hypothetical carriage situation, that artist or animator would probably have to a large degree, at least given the limitations of current technology in the field of AI, is you still have to draw it or at least give prompts or probably help it feed it something so that it can do its job that you want it to do, right?
Yeah.
And it is not devoid of creative input from a human being, right? But I think it is very presumptuous to say that if I were to show you an anime and then go, yo, those ants that are fighting in solo leveling the first like 20 seconds, yeah, that's all done by AI, not done by a person. And then you'll be like, oh my god, then I am boycotting solo leveling. There's just don't say that because you're lying. Don't do that. Like, and if you are not lying, okay, you are the one out of 3 million so people that actually will find a problem with consuming solo leveling just because the red ants are done by AI. Of course, if it's the script, if it is a lot of stuff, right? And again, it's not an all or white, black or white, all or nothing issue.
AI voice actors and actresses, right?
That's a big deal in my opinion, because the ants can look bad, but if the voice is shockingly good or shockingly bad, then that's an even bigger problem.
Oh, that was a great voice acting performance by Ken Suda. What, you're telling me that's not Ken Suda? That's just AI? Ah, shit. That's a whole different thing.
And that's also goes into ethics to a point where I don't know if I can even give you a good argument or answer.
Because the voice actors and actresses are also very divided on it too. Well, mostly on the negative side, but even then, it's like people can see why it's being implemented. Yeah, like when we talk about the ethics of AI, right? And I don't even think that is even the point of this discussion. I think it's more just to see like what anime production, like how actually see like reaping benefits of using AI to supplement certain aspects of animation, particularly in 3D. I think that is the point of the conversation.
Yes,
so when we go into the ethics part, that is not for us to decide because every person has their own agenda on what AI is, what it's for, and how it's used.
But I can sort of say with very broad strokes that the ethics from the consumer perspective is negligible.
I mean, look, they're burning down like half the Amazon rainforest to be able to, make sure you have enough Big Macs on your table, but nobody's complaining about that at this stage, right? Yes, you have people from Greenpeace, and you also have people from like
the Peace Corps and
just
stuff,
just no oil and whatnot, and all that shit. But it's like we're still eating Big Macs,
right?
We're still eating chicken nuggets and all that. Like, I'm sorry, like I am not going to be that person to tell you what's right and wrong because I also consume stuff on a massive level of production. Again, it's one of those things that I hate saying it, but it's like there's no ethical consumption in capitalism. There's always going to be a loser and a winner in
because
capitalism.
By default that's the definition. That's the definition of it, right? So it is like another like that's why I wanted to focus mainly on the 3D because it's not only a very obvious problem from a consumer standpoint, but it's everywhere in almost a lot of 2D animations, particularly companies and productions that very likely does not have the budget, so they have to resort to methods such as maybe not even using good 3D because there are a scale of variability there, right? So they have to do this, and they're just like it's just like I firmly believe that video game designers or programmers not necessarily always, in fact, almost never want to make a bad game. But they know the problems, they know the limitations, and when they probably ship out the product, just like when they ship out the anime, when it's at the end of production, they're like, yeah, but that carriage and that red ant scene is kind of fucked, yo.
You're basically using this hour to essentially tell Jamando, hey, look, like, just redo that opening scene in Villainous Level 99, right?
I mean, it literally spurred me to like think of this topic. I mean, also with AI being a hot button issue.
You were watching fucking Villainous Level 99. You're like, this is gonna make for a great fucking BP topic.
Do you know how bad it was? It's not bad in the sense of I
had that moment when looking at fucking Witch and the Beast, the crows.
I don't even think that was that bad, right? And here's the subjective part, right? You might be okay with.
I was not okay with the horse carriage at all.
No, but I meant like you might be okay with a certain use of 3D here, or at least it was acceptable in your eyes, and then my eyes is not acceptable, right?
Oh, I honestly haven't found an acceptable usage of 3D anime usage in a 2D anime yet. So I'm like, look, there's gonna be times where it does work.
Do you know why you have not found an instance of it? Because if you wouldn't know. That's the thing. I thought about that too.
You wouldn't be talking about it.
It's kind of like if like a producer or someone behind the scenes is doing their job, you don't know that they're doing their job. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If the 3D is actually well enough, or that quote unquote tricks you or convinces you, you won't know it's 3D unless if someone or a programmer was like, "Oh yeah, that's in 3D," and you'd be like, "Oh okay," and then your next line will be like, "Oh, that's pretty good 3D." It kind of. I thought it was 2D, right? So it's like...
As opposed to like, holy fuck, that was an atrocious usage of 3D. Why would they do that? Burn the studio down. Redo this anime.
And I bought a new monitor, so it made it like extra crystal clear to me. And I was just like losing my mind because that carriage was atrocious.
Yes, it was.
And also the pew-pew stuff. I forgot the crows, but if I probably like rewatched it, I'll be like, yeah, well, I kind of... Yeah, that was real bad, bro.
Yeah. So I think what in summation, like
there's not
3D bad, AI good. That no, we're not going like that, like monkey brain.
I think from a anime purist perspective, which I would sometimes have.
You would also then question, like, are you really an anime purist? But at least like you're answering like to the best of your like opinion of what it means to appreciate anime and manga to an extent. Like you're not looking at AI as something that's totally going to revolutionize the anime industry and replace the way that we've done anime, but rather it's like.
And I'm also not commenting on production or performances in other aspects, creative or not. I'm only focusing on at least the 3D part because it's just because I knew
it. In my opinion, it's like the least black and white in terms of like whether it's a good thing or not, but at the same time, it's like, no, it is the most black and white because
that's why I picked it. Yeah, that's why I was a little confused when you said it earlier.
Because like you don't necessarily need to think about like the production costs. You don't need to think about like the fallout of potentially losing people, like people losing their jobs and whatnot, or like the over abuse of AI and power in this particular scenario. No, it's more just like would 3D anime or 3D animated scenes benefit from the use of AI? And the simple answer, from my opinion, I'm sure from your opinion, is yes, with an asterisk.
Well, several actually.
Yeah.
Right. But I also think that, well, if let's say this feature or this capability is possible, then what makes you think that animes in the past, such as the one episode of Villainous 99 I just watched, can't be touched up?
Yeah,
post production.
But I think that's exactly why now like you have the discussion of like the One Piece coming up as
exactly,
well, right? Like I was actually talking to a couple of like my boot camp classmates. Then one of them was like, I'm actually like kind of excited for the One Piece because I thought that the blue the Blue Sea saga, whatever it was called, was atrocious. It was done really, really badly. It was very dated in terms of like, I mean, you can watch it now, of course, but at the same time, it was like loaded with a bunch of filler, and the way that it was animated, it just felt like they were just rushing to get things done and catch up with the anime, with the manga, and then go on like some hiatus by throwing up a bunch of fillers and whatnot. So it's like he welcomed the change in terms of what the One Piece would be able to offer, depending on what this cutting edge visual technology is.
And I would also want to say that I am not saying that this cutting edge technology is 3D in nature at all,
or AI.
We have no basis, and we actually don't know, other than rumors and speculation of the two of us as well as the internet, right? But look, I just think that AI ain't that bad.
The current iteration of it. And in its most simplest form.
Yeah, and not a writing, creative, storyboarding. Like, the one thing that I think everyone could easily say, comparatively to other aspects of creative production overall, could be like, yeah, if you fix that, wouldn't be too bad. Like, it's just a couple of horse carriages or Vikings marching. I mean, it'll be okay, right?
Yeah, it's not like you're completely AI generating Thorfinn fighting against a huge army. Like that's not what we're even asking for.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for, I need a scene of the village square and a horse carriage coming in. Oh, okay, no problem, boss. I'm just gonna type that exact description into this figurative box, and it's gonna spit out this scene in 3D. No, I'm not asking that either. And designing all of that. No. It's more of like integrating the last several fine-tuning of making the 3D better and making it on a massive scale would improve the look and appeal of the 3D, or the lack thereof of the appeal, to make it integrate with the 2D, and then therefore make it a more palatable product for the consumer, which in theory would mean more success and revenue for the creators.
Supposedly,
yeah. All of this is supposedly.
We don't know if, for example, Witch of the Beast did use AI generative art for certain areas.
I don't think so.
I don't know if it would further like.
All I know, it didn't look good.
Yeah, So like it's neither here nor there. We can't make that confirmation, but we would welcome at least like more studios or more people who are ambitious enough to try using this technology to and test it out. They may test it out and be like, actually, this is worse. Let's not roll it out. Completely fine.
I'm okay with that because you tried. But don't say we are not going to try it.
Yeah, don't knock it till you try it, right?
Yeah, bro. You got listen. Sometimes knowing what is wrong and right gives you the ability to know what is wrong and right rather than just saying it's wrong without even knowing for sure if it is.
Yeah. We just hit the hour mark just now, so
we might have gone off tangent for quite a bit, but I just wanted to kind of reintroduce because it is in many facets in the manga and anime production sphere.
I think the general conversation that we had was mainly focused on AI with the focus of trying to gear it towards one particular aspect without covering everything because we don't want to do that.
And that would be too ambitious of a BP. At least I want to start off this way, and maybe
we could totally like keep running through it, but it's also like we haven't used AI to that extent. I haven't used AI to that extent in terms of the models that I was training.
I haven't even 3D animated anything to this extent. Oh, okay, wait, let me think. Maybe in like the early 1990s, I used 3D Movie Maker.
That counts, but that was like,
bro, I'm an animator. What?
Yeah, why don't you call Jamondo and be like, I'll fix that carriage for you.
Hey, listen, you know how to contact us, right? Because that you can contact us at the. I fucking can't do it. Sorry. I thought that was a decent segue too. Fuck.
You can't crack under the pressure, man. You gotta do the script.
Shit. Thank you for listening to me mess that one up. That was my bad. But the rest of our episode's pretty good. And this is the episode that is BP26, the end of this episode of the Good Anime Palette podcast. If you want to, you can always leave us a ratings or review. We appreciate it. Our email is gapalette@gmail.com, GAPALETTE, all lowercase, all one word. All our other social media is provided in the show description, as well as our Discord server. www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word, is our website. We encourage you to check it out. Our music credits for this episode. Our intro music is After Hours Dinner by Almost Here, and our outro music is 2011 by Rocket Jr. You can support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or your music listening platform of choice. And we would like to tell you that Epidemic Sound provides all our royalty-free music. If you're interested, you can sign up using the referral link in our show description. Terms and conditions apply.
Boom. There we go.
Yeah.
That was a good discussion. I feel like we could have gone on for another 5 hours just talking about the use of AI in general, specifically within anime and manga production, but no, we're not fucking doing that.
Also, if we ever were to go down that rabbit hole, I would need to definitely do more research to know what I'm talking about.
We would also need to at least see like more AI in use in anime and manga anyway, right? Like we just need to see. Yeah, we just need to see.
I just did the robot in front of
we
Will.
We
He
just need to see like a robot like just sitting here and like writing out, manga panels and whatnot. Yeah.
What makes you think I'm not a robot, Will?
Oh, don't do this to me right now, man.
I need nectar, bro.
Dude,
that's a Metallic Rouge reference, bitches. All right, I'm out.